Alright, welcome back to the Sci Fi Case project, part 21. So in this tutorial we're going to basically sort of finish up these two sides here, these hinges that are basically going to hold another sort of piston handle here. And again, this comes back from here. You can kind of see there's like a cylinder kind of structure, possibly a cylinder structure. That's the way I'm kind of interpreting this. It's so low res it's kind of hard to tell. And then we have a grip and the handle piece here. So I thought I could use the same piece here, and I'll kind of do that in another tutorial. So this is just kind of like a placeholder for right now. But let's get to work on these two. So I'm going to go ahead and select both of these just by holding the shift key and kind of move them out. And then I can grab one of these guys and zero it out and put it back where it was. Or this one, I think this one, if I zero it out. Yeah, it's back to there. So basically we have the same scenario here. We are going to create a hole for this piece to be in here. So a great way to work on this is to, first off, before we get into that, notice how much history is here on just this one object. And I noticed that my computer is kind of slowing down a little bit. And so I'm going to select everything in my scene here. And I'm going to go to delete history. I have it as a hotkey here again, but it's edit, delete by type, and history right there. And that just sort of cleans out the nodes. That'll help improve performance. And anytime you want to freeze the transformation, like if I want to make sure this has zeroed out and this is a correct location, I'm going to want to freeze transforms by hitting FT here. So I was just thinking about that just recently. So let's get to it with these two pieces. I'm going to shift select these two and isolate them. And so what I can do is kind of take a look at this guy. And I think this one needs to be a little bit wider. So I'm going to hit R and kind of scale it out just a little bit. And I'm going to move it back to position something like that maybe. And let's see. Yeah, we could go a little bit thicker. Just a tiny bit in the depth there. That's probably going to be good to start with, and we can always modify it later on. But I'm going to double click on the insert edge loop tool, make sure relative distance is selected right now, and what I want to do is create an edge loop right here as like a bounding area of like where the cylinder is going to be. So that's why it's kind of important to have that cylinder there. And this is approximation. You can see that one's a little bit tighter, so I could undo that and just kind of bring it a little bit more space there. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the sides. I'm going to create one here and one on the other side here. And so that'll be kind of my bounding box area. And then I'm going to add an edge loop, I think right up here, just to kind of make that solid. And ooh, I forgot to do a very important thing here. I forgot to add a center point here, but I can fake it. What I could do here is just add approximately a center point and then basically just delete half the mesh. I am going to want to maybe center it across the middle here. So again, I'll double click on the insert edge tool, select multiple edges, and have one is selected, and bam, now that's centered perfectly. And then I'll bring it back to relative again and close out, click on the arrow. And then I'm going to go into face mode here, and I'm just going to delete this bottom faces here, even though it's not exact, exactly halfway. We can kind of, once we have it mirrored over, we can kind of bring it down further to kind of modify it. And then for this piece here, let's hit, let's see, W. Yeah, it looks like the pivot's centered here. I'm going to go ahead and center the pivot again, just make sure it's perfectly centered. And I'm going to delete half the other side here. Just delete these faces, just to make it a little easier to see. And now we can just focus on this one piece here. Once I go to object mode, there we go. And I'm going to isolate just it. And I'm just looking at this here, and I'm going to double click, choose multiple edges, and do one here and one here, and now we got four nice quads there. Click on relative, close that out, and now I can select these faces here, this one, this one, this one, this one, and I can now shift and then right click with the mouse, go to Circularize Components, and then immediately hit R for the scale tool, and I can kind of scale it down a little bit. Or maybe I need to scale it up. Let's bring back the whole thing. Let's see how it looks. Yeah, we probably could scale this down a little bit more, because the idea here is we're gonna have it kind of tight. Could have a little bit. Yeah, that's probably good. Maybe move it up just a 10. There we go. And now what I can do is hit Control E, and then again I'm going to click on the blue cube, and then click on this center blue cube and kind of scale in. I'll hit number 4 so you can see this. But basically what we're doing here is we're creating an edge loop on the inside, right, for this thing. And then I'm going to hit Control E again, and this time grab the blue arrow and pull in a little bit to create that edge, and then hit Control E again. And you've seen this before. Just kind of bring this in, and I'll hit number 5. And what I want to do is bring this all the way over until it snaps to the edge here. So I'm going to hold the V key and just snap to there. You can kind of see it there. And then I'll just hit the delete key, and it's because we don't need to see those interior faces. So basically, if we hit number 3 on this guy, I mean, it's pretty close. It could be scaled up maybe a tiny bit more. So one thing we could do is we could just hit R for scale. And or actually let's select isolate it, and we'll go to this angle here and just kind of go to vertex, and we'll kind of select all these interior verts, so none of the exterior ones. So you can see here, if I scale it, it just makes the circle bigger essentially. And I'm thinking if I hit number 3 on it just to kind of preview it, just want to scale it up a little bit. And that's close enough. We just want a little bit of the edge kind of showing through, you know. So I can move this down a little bit now. When I go to object mode, and you can see it's still, you know, kind of snug there. It looks like something happened here. All right, I have to undo a couple times. Oh, I know what I did. When I scaled this, I accidentally grabbed, looks like those edges there. Let me undo a couple more times. So you got to be careful what you're selecting. And apparently I had some outside vert selected. So I'm just going to shift select each of these just by dragging across. Like so. There we go. And then one more. Okay. So it doesn't look like I have any, if I hit number 4, you can kind of see I don't have any of the outside circles now selected. I had a couple on here that were selected before, so that was the reason why it was having some issues. But when I scale this, I could scale in so you can scale in different dimensions. You can use these little squares here. So if I scale this, it only scales in the Y and X and not the Z, which is probably what I should have done too, because then it doesn't manipulate the verts. So what was happening, or was some of those verts are getting pushed out a little bit. So I can just do that. I can kind of scale this up a little bit. And I think that's going to do it. That looks pretty good. Yeah. Go back to object mode. Yeah, you can see now everything's still aligned properly. And when I hit number 3, everything looks pretty good there. Okay, so we're going to mirror this a couple times. So we need the mirror options under mesh. Go to mirror and go to mirror options here. And so first we're going to mirror across on the Z axis. So Z, and this will be in the minus, not the plus, because the plus is over here. We want the other side. So I hit apply, and now you can see we got a nice complete part here. When I go to object mode and hit number 3, it looks good on both sides. And then I want to mirror it basically down this way, which would be in the Y. So the Y axis, and this again would be in the minus, because the positive is the one up here. So when I hit apply, we essentially get, oh, I know what I did. Undo that for a sec. So what I forgot was to move my pivot here. So really important to have your pivot down here. So what I can do is just hit the D key, start to move this down, and then hold V and kind of snap to an edge, and that will kind of bring it down to the bottom here. Hit D again, go back to object mode. Now it'll mirror across this axis here. So when I hit apply, voila, just like that, we got the other side. Pretty cool. Now I can go to vertex mode, and I can basically grab these guys and just bring them down. Something like that approximately. Let me zoom in and just take a look. Again, we're just using this other guy as kind of a guide here. I'm going to show in the tutorial how to create that guy. And then I could bring these guys down a little bit more and kind of center it. But that's basically it. Let's see, if we hit number 3 on this, do we want to do anything to it? I mean, it doesn't look half bad. Let's turn off wireframe unshaded and click on it for a sec. I mean, it's got kind of a little bit of roundness to it. I mean, I could bevel the edges here if I wanted to, but I don't know. I don't mind where it's at right now. I kind of feel like this is such a small piece. It's okay. It's got a little shine there. Don't mind the roundness of it. And then you got the sharper edge on the top and the bottom there. So I think I'm going to leave it. But if you did want to bevel, you know, you could just select, you know, the edges you want to bevel. Double click on this edge, hold the shift key, double click on that one, and I'll hit number 4 to go in wireframe. And just to show you guys what this might look like, I don't know, maybe it'll look kind of cool. Double click on that one, and then double click on that one. There we go. Number 5. So we got all those edges selected on the sides. The tops have kind of a edges up there, so I don't think I need to add one. But let's add that bevel and take a look what that would look like. I mean, that doesn't actually look too bad. So we can go into the bevel. Let's see. We can adjust the fraction a little bit. We can add a segment. Now the only thing is we have an engon here that we'd have to fix on each of these sort of corners. But let me click off of it and see if I do like that. I don't know. It's kind of hard. I really wanted a softer, rounder kind of effect on here, and this is kind of hard. So I am going to undo that. It's one of those things you got to try and see if you like. And yeah, I like it just kind of rounded. I think it's better that way as a design element. I think it's nice to have a little bit of roundness, and you still have the sharp bevels there, because we have other kind of areas where we're going to have bevels. Like this thing has some crazy beveling action in here too, so yeah. So let's turn on wireframe unshaded again. It looks good. So now I could basically make a copy of this and bring it over here. Pretty easy to do. Just delete that one, select this. Since this is actually perfectly symmetrical, I don't even have to do anything fancy. I could just hit Control D and kind of eyeball it and bring it over, you know, wherever I want here, and just line it up basically however far I want to go. And that would do it. So at this point, I might select these and choose the Fong material, since these two are kind of complete. And so the next tutorial will kind of we'll use this piece to create this piece. I mean, we could recreate this whole thing too. It's not too complicated to recreate, but a lot of times it's kind of fun to reuse basically geometry you already have, and so I thought it'd be kind of fun to show off that on there. And then in between tutorials, maybe I'll mirror some of the. No, I'm gonna wait, because actually I want to kind of mirror everything across once we get all the alignments on there and stuff. All right, so yeah, I think this will wrap up this tutorial. We're getting mighty close to finishing up. Until next time, see you soon. Cheers.